Hi everyone, we're a little bit later this week. We are going to be speaking with the chair of Northern Pride, Steve. Steve's going to tell us a bit about Northern Pride. It is a little bit far away, yeah, it's up in Newcastle. And we're going to have a chat about organising Pride, how Steve got involved in Pride, and a little bit about the history of Northern Pride, because it's been running for a very long time and it is one of the biggest free prides in the whole of the UK. So let's jump right in. Come on, Steve. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's lovely to see you again.
And you, it's been far too long. I was very much looking forward to this weekend and coming up to Newcastle. It's always fun driving. I think it's about 400 miles.
I think
But
it
it's
was 5 hours last year.
yeah, it did. But it's always a really good event. And I think I was saying earlier, after last year doing a lot of Pride circuits, coming up to Northern Pride, it sort of it gave me this great feeling to see a free event on such a huge scale. And what you guys do is insane. So if anyone watching from Portsmouth, if you've never been to Northern Pride, I'll let Steve tell you a little bit about what they managed to achieve up there.
God, where do I start? So Northern Pride's been going since 2007. And it started very much as a small community event and has just grown over the years. I feel like I'm incredibly fortunate because I've inherited the festival that it is today. Last year was my first as chair. I've been with the organisation for 5 years now, supporting them. I started as a volunteer photographer and just absolutely fell in love with it. Fell in love with the committee, fell in love with the way that the event was done, and everything else. Like yourselves, we're known for the festival, but we do work all year round. And just really starting to get ingrained into that part of the community and really being able to, or I like to think, being able to make a difference. So I just really kind of got sucked in and just brought along and started working on communication and support from that side of it, and then became a trustee and a director of the charity about a year or so later, and then here I am.
Yes, and hopefully for a long while as well. You guys have been doing some really great work, and you and your husband are both part of the Pride organisation up north. And yeah, it's just to put it in perspective, sort of the scale. You guys had what, over 20,000 people last year?
So over last year's weekend, we had over 43,000 people
Wow.
attend the festival. It's around about in front of the main stage at any one time. You're talking about 25,000 that could be watching the main stage. We split across two sites. We have multiple zones. We've got some of the kind of favourite zones of ours, the health and well-being, where people are able to come and get their STI screening. We were one of the first prides to bring in 1 hour HIV testing a few years ago, which still goes on to this day. And then one of our biggest areas is our family and youth zone. Family and youth is incredibly important to Northern Pride, and a lot of the stuff that we do throughout the year is tailored towards young people. We have to acknowledge that as a Pride organisation, it's incredibly important that we champion young people, we support them, not only in their own personal gender identity or sexuality, but the acceptance of others, to make sure that when they grow up, we're in a much better and more inclusive environment.
And I think that's the thing, is having acceptance within the community first and foremost, and then being able to, one, accept yourself, be around individuals who accept you, and that can then translate and spread across entire cities and countries. I think that we all understand and can acknowledge what the people before us have done to enable us to be sort of where we are. Even just with gay marriage, I know that when I grew up being gay, I just kind of assumed that I'd never be able to get married. And then we had civil partnerships come in, and we had now gay marriage, or marriage, just marriage. We are able to marry in the same way as everyone else in the country. And that all kind of stems from sort of small grassroots events and protests, and you see over the decades the change that's been made. And yeah, 2007, that's a really long time, and your festival has grown, and the work that you do within the community as well, so reaching out to different organizations. Yeah. Sorry.
Just I echo with everything that you've just said there in terms of looking at the past and where we've gone from to now. I think what we need to recognise as well, though, as individuals, and the roles that we both have in our pride in LGBT community areas, is that we really need to start looking at the minority voices within our own community and start amplifying those. I'm incredibly conscious that I'm a cisgendered white gay man, and I have a lot of privilege. I have a lot of rights that people have fought for before me. But unfortunately, the individuals that started the Pride movement, they're from the trans people of colour part of the community, and they don't have the same rights that I do, and that imbalance needs to be rectified. And I think what we need to do really over the next few months is make sure that we're watching the outcome of the Gender Recognition Act, making sure that that is in favour of the trans community. And if not, that's where we need to really look at our history, learn from the past about what protesting, what campaigning can actually achieve, and be ready to fight that good fight and take it to number 10, and make sure that there is positive change for the trans, non-binary and gender diverse community.
Yeah, and I think that that's really important as well, as when we look at trans issues and we talk about the Gender Recognition Act and we look at a lot of what is being discussed about trans rights at the moment, is to not forget about our non-binary siblings as well, individuals that are gender fluid, because while the main focus at the moment is on trans rights, trans is an umbrella for all individuals that don't conform to or not conform, that don't identify under a binary construct. And that is extremely important as well. And it was great. We had non-binary. It's non-binary week for awareness about non-binary individuals. So it's great to be able to, I guess, highlight things like that and hopefully encourage different individuals from different backgrounds and gender identities to come forward and say, do you know what, I want to be a part of this, and have their voices be heard.
Yeah. I think what you need to recognise is that actually there can be very, very small changes for the non-binary community. Just simply removing the need to collect data of whether it's Mr. or Mrs. or Miss, or sometimes that information is not relevant to data collection. And actually, just by taking a simple step by removing that from an application form or from a survey, that can be amazing for somebody's self-worth of actually recognizing that they can be non-binary and that is valid. I think so. I've worked in industries, I've worked in financial services, I've worked in energy, and I'm seeing far too few companies taking the brave step to start adding Amex to the list of prefixes. And simple changes like that should be enforced day in, day out. We've got a big fight ahead of us in terms of making sure that non-binary people can be seen as legal in terms of passports and birth certificates and things like that. There is still quite a bit of way to go where that's concerned, but small steps that individuals, if anybody's watching who runs their own business, their own small business, think about those little changes now that can actually support the non-binary community and make them feel valid.
And it is that step, that small step to validation, and not having to kind of feel the need to explain yourself. And as you said, as cisgendered individuals, we have a lot of privilege. Like we are considered in the LGBTQ plus movement, and we stand in sort of the forefront of it. And it's our responsibility to fight for equal rights, so that individuals who are not cisgendered can have the same validation that we have, in the same way that our predecessors fought for our rights to be gay and be accepted.
So I was in a conversation with someone. It was about a week or so ago, and it was very much a conversation that spiraled from the Black Lives Matter movement. And how it was explained to me was that individuals who have been fighting against racism in terms of the BLM movement, or in terms of trans people who have been fighting for their identity to be accepted, these individuals are now tired. They're exhausted of that fight and that battle because they've been going at this for a number of years. Now, for me, it's my turn and my cisgendered and my white friends' turn to really start taking on that fight, taking the weight and the burden away from those individuals that are tired and exhausted of fighting. And it's our turn to really step up and start supporting those individuals, and leading the way and start championing their voices, amplify those voices, and really start pushing boundaries.
Yeah, 100%. And that also goes for all of our straight allies, our straight cis allies as well. They've stood by us and supported us with the LGBT rights campaigns, or LGBT rights campaigns at the time. And now it's time to focus on the trans rights movement. And as you were saying, with reaching out to BAME communities, we spoke a couple of weeks ago with Zaina, the chair of Oxford Pride, and about the lack of sort of diversity within Pride organisations. And I don't think that is intentional in any way, shape, or form, but it's really difficult to reach out to communities where, as a cis white gay man, it'd be very difficult for you to reach out to Black and ethnic minorities, because you can't walk a day in their shoes, shall we say. But we're all standing here and saying, if you're out there, reach out. Come and find us. Let us hear what you have to say. We want to hear your voices so that we can champion them and project them, and you get the message out there so that we're making steps in the right direction rather than just blindly sort of not doing anything.
Because it's so for all those down in Pompey, have quickly went on Google to find out where Newcastle is. We're in an area that is 97% white British. We're the highest white British population in England and Wales. So it makes it hard for us to reach out to the community, but it shouldn't make it impossible. We have to work a bit harder. We have to get a bit creative in terms of making sure that people from the POC community feel represented, feel valued in Pride. And for me, it's how do we do that? How do we work with other organisations to send that beacon? Because what we've got to think about is when we've got that 20-odd thousand people stood in front of the stage, that one person in the crowd who is POC, or they're bisexual, or they're non-binary, or they're looking at their gender fluidity, finding them their true self. They need to feel as if they're represented on our stage, on our platforms, in our zones. And we need to just be able to look at the people from the community, make sure they're represented, so they feel as if actually, that can be me. So whilst they might not be present right now in terms of our committee or any of the work that we do, if they see themselves represented, even if that person is not from the Northeast, then at least they can say to themselves, that could be me. I'm going to reach out to Northern Pride. I'm going to get involved. And I think we've got some plans this weekend, which hopefully we'll talk about.
Yes.
This weekend, we've really looked out into the community to make sure that we have got voices from all parts of the community represented, and hopefully we've done well. And hopefully people will then start reaching out to us as an organisation and get involved in some of our other work and campaigns.
Yeah, and I think that's what majority of Pride organisations, especially the ones that we're sort of involved with and connected with, that's what we all want, is to have strength in our community and be representative of everyone in our location that is part of our community. So yes, we've got to sort of touch on it, but this weekend I'm devastated. I'm going to be in Portsmouth, not in Newcastle, because it was going to be this year was going to be amazing, but next year's going to be even better, because you've had even more time to plan for it. But Newcastle was awarded UK Pride for 2020,
Yeah.
And you guys have been really lucky, and Western Superman have been really gracious and allowed you to carry that on and hold it for 2021 next year. I think it also gives them a bit more time to plan. So, but yes, so this weekend there is still going to be a Northern Pride. So tell us what it is that you've got planned and how people can find out about, or how people can watch it and get involved.
Yeah. So, just to touch on the postponement of the event, devastating, and it was a really, really tough and hard decision, but the right one, and hopefully people will still remain safe. They'll stay cautious. They'll wear their masks. Put your mask on. But this weekend, we wanted to still mark the occasion because, we have to appreciate that individuals come to Pride events, and it's quite possibly the only time that they get to truly be themselves. They get to wear the clothes that they believe represents them. They get to come in a same-sex relationship or in a family that's being raised by same-sex parents. And some individuals come to Pride while still living almost in those shadows, not being their true self, still wondering, what is their gender, what is their sexuality. And sometimes it's the only opportunity that they get to kind of explore that. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't take that away from the community, that we still provided a form of an event that people could take part in, and join in and watch and hopefully learn. So we kind of took this approach where we're going to split the day up into key sections. So naturally, there's going to be a virtual march. We've been collecting photos and videos from previous years, so a bit of nostalgia in there, to put a virtual Pride together, which will be soundtracked by some local artists in the region to showcase some local talent. And then for the rest of the day, we've split it up into some key themes. We've picked some Pride related themes to really start to focus on what we should be looking at, especially at this moment in time with regards to the pandemic and COVID-19. So we've got unity, which is all around, exploring how we should be coming together as one. We kind of talked about campaigning just earlier. We've also got identity, so we can explore what makes us who we are. And then we've picked one of our 3 principles. So Northern Pride is based on 3 principles. The first is to protect the rights that we've won and champion these at home and abroad, and help fight for the rights that still are needed. Promote a healthy body and mind. As we know, mental well-being is incredibly important for our community. And then finally, provide safe spaces and events like the festival. So we're going to focus on Saturday at looking at protect for all the reasons that we've kind of covered off already in terms of the rights that we're still fighting for, especially within the trans, non-binary and gender diverse community. And then what we're doing is we're moving on to the flag. So we want to really look at the history of the LGBT flag, how it's gone from 8 colours down to 6, then back to 8. And recently what we've done is we've made a decision to adapt the progress flag colours within our own logo to send a very clear message to our community that we see everybody for who they are and that they are all valid. So we're going to be looking at a little bit of history with regards to the rainbow flag on Saturday. We picked 3 of the 6 colours from the kind of more commonly known flag. We've picked yellow for sunlight because that helps us look at the, coming out of the shadows, being our true self, being our authentic individuals, but also gives us an opportunity to reflect on those that can't, individuals that are still living in isolation, away from their true selves because of fear of persecution, or worse, fear of death penalties in certain countries. So it gives us an opportunity to really look at that as well. And then we've picked orange, which is for healing. We think it's very important right now, especially after the pandemic, not just from a physical health perspective, but from a mental health perspective, that we look at how do we look after ourselves, how do we make sure that we are looking after our mental well-being, as we've been in isolation, we've been away from support networks, we've possibly been living in hostile environments which have not been healthy. And then finally, we're going to end the day with our 3rd colour, which is the purple colour from the flag, which is for spirit. And that's going to be our candlelit vigil, where we've teamed up with the one of the local church, Northern Lights. who are going to help run our vigil, which gives us an opportunity to really celebrate who we are, remember the individuals that we've sadly lost over the years, and also just pause for reflection of ourselves and of the community that we have, and look at a way forward.
That sounds like an amazing day. I also just want to point on this as well is you guys do this in the same way that we do. So all of the planning and everything that you're doing, every single person that's part of Northern Pride is a volunteer as well. So these guys are doing an absolutely fantastic job. And I think it definitely takes a village, maybe in your case, a city, to kind of get it all going and all planned. And yeah, just I guess the logistics must be an absolute nightmare.
We're very, very, very lucky, or should I say, I'm very lucky. I've got a really good team around me. I've got individuals that have been doing this longer than me, and we've got some individuals that are just bringing so much input and energy and enthusiasm to how we can move things forward. It's we are incredibly, incredibly lucky in the North East from the support from our council. Newcastle City Council was awarded the #1 spot for the Stonewall Index.
Yes, I was going to say that. Yeah, Newcastle City Council is the #1 employer on the Stonewall Top 100 list, which, as a Pride organisation, must I mean, there must be obviously a lot of support, but that must also be like a really nice feeling to have with your the people that kind of make the decisions on what you can and can't do, sort of being on your side, not having to sort of justify the reason why the event is needed. That must be really positive.
Yeah, completely. And I speak to prides across the country, and unfortunately not everybody's in the same boat. And it's really important that councils understand the value of pride events, whether it is a big festival, whether it's a small community event paid for free, whether there's a parade, there's not a parade. Every pride's different, every city's different on how they look to celebrate the community. But it's incredibly important that local authorities and MPs, people of position and power and decision making, is behind the community, and more so in the sense of not just by words but by action, by making it possible for events to take place. It's incredibly, as you know, it's incredibly hard to navigate red tape, to make sure that it's a safe event, to make sure that policies and procedures are in place. And we need the likes of the local authority to really help shape and guide how that all happens. And it really does foster a sense of unity and community within the region, within both organisations, and with the community as a whole.
Which, and we're extremely lucky that we have, while our council, I'm not entirely sure if they are on the list, they have got their Stonewall accreditation, and they are a supporter, and they work in partnership with us to help us do the main day, and keep it going, as well as to help us with the work that we do in the community. And what you sort of touched on earlier, with the work that you guys do, because you guys do a lot of work in the community. I've seen some of the videos. I enjoy your mascot. I'm guessing there's probably a new suit coming soon.
It's just a new t-shirt.
But yeah, you guys do a lot of outreach, and you did, I think last year, you did a video with engagement in sport for LGBTQ plus people as well. And so I think that's something that is really important as well when we talk about healthy, like health and well-being. Physical health and mental health they do link hand in hand, and there's a lot of people that will say doing exercise and doing sport, like for me personally, I play rugby, and healthy mind, healthy body for me goes in tangent. And I think that highlighting the need for inclusion in sport, that for me was really powerful, because it's obviously something I can quite relate to. But you guys do tons and tons of stuff.
Well, sports, when I say the word sport, I do get palpitations. I'm not the most athletic or healthy where that comes in. But we're very fortunate in the North East. We've got a lot of LGBT specific clubs. We've got running clubs, football clubs, cricket. You name it. There's a club out there. But we also have a lot of clubs that purposely celebrate themselves as being an inclusive environment. we've got to acknowledge as well that there's still challenges when it comes to it's kind of gendered sport, whether it's a girls team or a male team, etc. And it's about trying to find those activities where actually you don't have to put yourself into a bucket. Now, what's brilliant is the Great North Run, which hopefully some Pompey people have travelled up and took part in. That's one of the biggest sporting events of the UK calendar. I think it's the largest, half marathon in Europe. And they've now gone to the route of actually allowing a non-binary category to be in the race itself. And for me, that just sends a very clear message that, you can take part in a sport like running and be accepted for who you are. What was really interesting is we actually officially took part as a charity in the Great North Run last year, and I did run, but I'm using the term run very, very loosely. And what was brilliant was we were the first LGBT specific charity to take part in that event, and we just see that as a milestone now. And we've seen so many other charities and LGBT organisations register for this year. Unfortunately, it has been postponed for obvious reasons. But it's great to see more LGBT groups stepping forward and taking part in sport. Sport can just be as simple as taking a walk and getting some fresh air. I think, especially with COVID and the way that life has naturally taken a bit of a slow pace and relaxed a little bit in terms of everybody was doing Monday to Friday 9 to 5 or working 40-hour weeks, and right now we've got an opportunity to really look at how we change our lives, how we take time for ourselves, how we go for walks in nature spaces, and that should continue when life gets some form of normality. We can continue that.
Yeah, it's. I think that the daily exercise, when it was the only time that you could actually go out, there was a lot more people taking that up that potentially wouldn't necessarily have had the time to previously because of work commitments and everything else you've got going on. Yeah. I always do this and I always forget. We're about halfway through now, but if anyone's got any questions, then please drop them in the comments and we will answer them. I know that we did have a question on our Instagram. And this is actually quite an interesting one. And being a lesbian as well, I've kind of never sort of really thought about it. And we sort of touched on flags. There's a question with regards to how can we as Pride organisations think of ways to include include lesbians slightly more within Pride, and especially the representation of the flag. And I think it's one of those things that it's very difficult to, you want to be inclusive, and by being inclusive, you don't want to isolate or segregate people, but then you kind of then fall into a bit of a trap where if you're not making specific spaces for specific people, then they don't feel like it can be inclusive. It's a bit of a minefield. But when it comes to sort of the lesbian flag, I know that there's two lesbian flags, which then kind of makes it difficult as to which one do you then want to pick and which one do you then want to champion. I think we've had this as well with the I guess a progression flag is what it's called. I'm never sure with terminology, but the inclusion of we as Sports of Pride have aimed to include the black and brown stripes from last year, and now moving forward, you guys have updated your logo with your flag to use the progression flag. And I think with the lesbian flag, I don't know. I think we can obviously put it around, but I guess it's maybe looking at a bit of a consensus as to which one people want to use, because you've got the new one with the stripes, which is sometimes it's referred to as a lipstick lesbian flag. I feel like maybe you're the wrong person for me to be asking about this. And then you've got the older flag, which is the yellow background with the I can never remember the name of it, but it's like the battle axe in the triangle, that symbol was quite prolific with sort of the older lesbian community.
Yeah.
But I don't know, what do you guys do? Anything specific to engage with different demographics of individuals?
Just to start with on flags, I think what's amazing is how many they are. when we rebranded back in 2018, we came up with the little Alex mascot, which was based on the Angel of the North. And we kind of see this figure, and it's very iconic for the Northeast, and it's the widespread arms welcoming people to our region. And when we came up with the design, which is kind of like with the shards, as we call them,
Yeah.
we came up with the concept of allowing people to actually have their own version of this logo. So when we designed it, we came up with T-shirt designs and things like that, and we basically created around about 20 different versions of Alex in all of the different colours. So there is the lipstick lesbian, there is a non-binary, there's gender fluid, there's all a wide range of them. We were doing a video series for Trans Day of Visibility 2019, and I was interviewing an individual, and they were doing it in front of a green screen, and we said that we would put the kind of shards based on the flag behind them. So when the interviews were projected, and somebody said to me, "I bet you haven't got the one that I use." Like, try me. I've got over 20. I'm sure it's in there. And it was actually gender flux, and it wasn't one that we had. But because of the way that the design is, we were able to create that and still put that behind the individual for the video when they were speaking. And it's almost like just by something as simple as that, it was shown that that person was valued for how they identify. So whether it's the pink striped or the battle axe or whatever it may be, or a combination, it's almost like that visibility and giving individuals the option to pick. Now, as organizations, we kind of naturally fall into a position where we have to have something to refer to, which is why we've gone down to the progress colours from this year onwards. Now, that's on the flag side of it. When it comes to the lesbian community within the event, again, it kind of comes back to a conversation that we had earlier around visibility. Now, it's about making sure that all parts of the community are represented at all parts of the festival. For us, we have 2 stages, we have different zones, we also have a kind of dance and cabaret area, and it's making sure that when we're programming, we're getting a really good, fair balance, of different parts of the community, whether that is a more feminine lesbian to a more masculine lesbian, or whether that is from the bisexual community. We speak quite a lot at the minute with regards to bi-erasure. And again, it's about making sure that those individuals feel that they're being represented and visible at these events. Now, we used to have specific zones that were for different parts of the community, but we started to remove those because actually what we're trying to foster at Northern Pride is everybody's accepted for who we are, and by segregation you're essentially breaking down that acceptance and that integration and that equality for all. Doesn't necessarily mean it's perfect for everybody. Everybody has different needs, and people come to Pride for different reasons. Some people do come for the party, for festival atmosphere, to see their friends, to have a good time, and other people come for community engagement, for being with others. And it's hard. It's hard for us as organisers. I'm sure it's the same for yourselves and the rest.
Well, I came to Northern Pride very much to learn, to see what you guys do, and to see how that we can bring some of that to Portsmouth. And I've got big dreams. I hope in maybe the next 10 years we can be as big and as inclusive as Northern Pride. It is difficult as an organizer. It is really difficult, and we sort of did the same thing with our logo. And oddly enough, I don't actually have it on today, but we've been discussing and we've been looking at it. And I think that one of the issues that we've always had is because we're a very small organisation, it's just cost. We did a small run of we adapted the logo to be the trans pride flag colours. We've been looking at getting the logo done to represent all the other individuals, and we can do that from an image point of view for social media and things like that. But when you're actually coming down to giving people the choice of what it is that they can get to best represent themselves, we make sure that we have the sort of small flags available for individuals to come if they wish to purchase one. And with our t-shirts and our merchandise, it literally just comes down to costs for us, and it's not something that as a small organization at this point in time we can afford to do. We're looking at ways that we can do it. I'm trying to convince my partner, because she screen printed all the tote bags that we had at Pride. I'm trying to convince her to do some more screen printing of different bags. But it is a labour of love.
No, she's definitely got a year to get those bags done.
Yeah, she's got a while. So but it is a labour of love, but it is making sure that we do our best. And I think as a Pride organisation at Portsmouth, we're quite lucky that we've actually got quite a number of lesbians that are involved with Pride. I think we've in our CIO, and even in the setting up, like myself, Sarah, and Kat. Me and Sarah are lesbians, and Kat is queer. I think that's how she identifies herself. But yeah, so we really do sort of strive for that. I hope that answered the question for the person that put it on Instagram. But no, it is. But what we said before about unity and inclusion, it's a fine line between making sure that you've got something for everyone and making sure that everyone is feeling included. And the only way that we can continue to do that as organisers is to listen to the community and sort of see what it is that they want.
Yeah.
I guess the point of these kind of conversations is to encourage the people that watch it to come and get involved. If you're up north, hit up Northern Pride. If you're down south, then please give us a shout at Portsmouth Pride. But yes, so the whole point of this was to talk about what's going on this weekend. And this is what happened. People that have watched this are used to me just gassing away to everyone. So yes, this weekend, where can people watch Northern Pride's 2020 extravaganza?
So we are broadcasting on our Facebook channel, which is facebook.com/Northern Pride UK.
I think the link is in the bottom. Oh no, I think it's our links in the bottom. Sorry, we'll get that sorted.
We'll put them in. And then also on our YouTube channel. So we're conscious that not everybody's got access to Facebook, so we're going to be pushing out all of our content onto YouTube as well. So hopefully people can get access there. We've got a really, really brilliant opportunity by going digital. It sounds bizarre. I am missing the festival dreadfully. It came up on my time hop thing memories today that this time last year the first wagon arrived on site. It takes us a full week to build the site. We start on the Monday. Funnily though, it takes literally 48 hours to put it all away. I think it's almost like by the end of a week they're sick of us and they want to get home. But yes, it's like we've got this really, really good opportunity with a digital event to reach people that we wouldn't ordinarily reach. We're very conscious about accessibility. We are the best that we can, but we are on a field, so we're limited in terms of full access. We do have a raised platform in the middle of the site for viewing access. We have a mobile loo to help people have decent access to toilet facilities, and of course all of our staging is BSL interpreted. But it doesn't mean that it can make it fully accessible for everybody. We've still got a long way to go to try and improve that. So by going digital, it really means that individuals that can't get to a festival, or they struggle with social anxiety, being in large crowds, all that kind of stuff. So we're trying to take this weekend is a chance to reach out to those individuals and give them a version of Pride that they can feel proud of and feel part of. We actually have a message. We've been asking our community to send in content for the virtual march, and we've actually had some really nice submissions from people who are celebrating their first Pride with us.
Oh wow!
Actually in lockdown, and I just think it's great to be able to showcase what we do as a Pride organisation, but actually reach potentially a lot more people. We've had video submissions in, and I'm not going to give anything away, so do tune in. But some of the submissions have really impacted me in a positive way in terms of It's inspired me. Some of the stories that I'm listening to and watching have really inspired me to keep going. But it's also given me a real good opportunity to reflect on some of the things that, as a community, we've had to overcome over the years. One of the videos in particular touches on the AIDS crisis of the 80s. And it's really important that, individuals who are potentially new to the LGBT plus community have an opportunity to learn our history. Schools are getting better. Don't get me wrong, schools and educators are getting a lot better to make sure that, LGBT plus history is taught. But we've got a great opportunity this weekend to touch on some of those key events of our history that we've managed to overcome and strive through. And again, for me, it just really gives us that push in terms of we've still got some fights. We're watching what's going on in Poland right now in terms of the LGBT zones. Let's not get on about America.
Let's not touch that one, otherwise we'll be here all night if we go down that route.
But yeah, so for me, COVID has hit us hard as organisations. This is kind of like what we do. We do public events. That's what we're known for. But it's given us an opportunity to really pause and reflect on where we're at, and get creative and really look at different ways of engaging. And some of the ways in which we've obtained content for this weekend is definitely something that, as an organisation, we'll continue to do more of as we move forward, regardless of face-to-face events, etc. This is a real chance for us to diversify.
Yeah, and I think it's also helped a lot of prides, especially like our pride that are much smaller. The community conversations kind of came out of COVID. We didn't have, we would normally do fundraising events or put on different types of events throughout the year to get engagement with people. And, the Youth Society kicked it off with the live lounges that they did. And from that, it all just kind of escalated to having these kinds of conversations and actually giving people that attend prides an opportunity to meet organisers from other prides and really kind of get an understanding of what it is that we do, and also how important it is to us. Because I think the biggest difficulty and I guess the hindrance for me before I even got involved in prides, you kind of look at these events and you think, oh gosh, I couldn't do something like that. Or for me it was always kind of like, I don't know how I would have an impact or what I could do to help. But actually, you can do anything. It just showing up on the day and directing traffic, or helping with social media. Even just highlighting things that are key issues or things that are important within an area of the community is unbelievably helpful, because we are all volunteers. We only have so many hours in the day, but we all are here trying to make a positive change. And I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy the most about Pride, is that everyone, regardless of what organisation you work for, what pride you work for, everyone is pulling in the same direction to just make it better for the next generation. And I think what you're saying, I'm really excited to see the videos that you've got, and especially about our history, because there are entire generations who have grown up now. I mean, it's 2020, so someone born in 2000 is now 20, which makes me feel really old. But I remember, well, I don't personally remember it, but in the 90s, growing up in the 90s, there was this hangover of what happened during the AIDS crisis and how people lived, and knowing Freddie Mercury died of AIDS, and sort of being aware of all of these things. Whereas it's great that we live in a time now where there is medication, there are drugs. Having HIV isn't a death sentence anymore. You can reduce the trace of it, make it undetectable, and it's untransmittable, and that's a really positive message. But it's how we got there and why we've got here, because it is something that crippled the gay community, and then also is also then kind of entrenched in a lot of homophobia as well, because it was listed as a gay disease. So if someone was heterosexual and they did have it, there was stigma and homophobia around it, which would cause a whole number of other issues that we could talk about for days.
Well, that's because it was one of the catalysts that then had this ripple effect, and one of the potential causes for Section 28, which then had a huge impact on the community. I'm sure my age now, but I was educated during Section 28, and I didn't know a person from the LGBT plus community. I couldn't. I was at school and I couldn't tell you if anybody was gay or lesbian or whatever. There wasn't those role models because it wasn't allowed. Now, only since I got, excuse me, only since I got involved in LGBT activism was when I actually realised that that could be the reason for why it took me a while to come out and accept my identity, because I wasn't allowed to know about gay people and that it was okay, and there was nothing wrong. And we've unfortunately got this position now where Liz Truss is almost being paralleled with potentially the new version of Section 28 with the rollback of some of the Gender Recognition Act reform, and that's what we need to be aware of. And I think we've got a real important job as Pride organisers to make sure that history is taught so we can learn from the past, so we don't make the same mistakes. We don't end up back in a position where people are losing rights or people are not allowed to be who they are, where we have to be quiet about our gender identity. And actually, no, we need to speak up and we need to be proud of everything that makes us who we are. And that's not just gender or sexuality, that's everything. That's our faith, our religion, our race, our ethnicity, our background, everything.
Yeah, 100%. I think that, I think that the message that you are sort of putting out here is exactly one of the reasons why we want to have these conversations. And again, it is about unity. And I think that it is important not to lose our history, because where we come from is how we've got to where we are. And if we forget about that, then it means that we do put ourselves in the position where we can take steps back. And it is very concerning, sort of what has been leaked, what is coming out from the gender recognition, the consultation, the fact that there isn't anything that has come out about it, and when we are likely to see that. But as long as we as organisations and individuals are shouting our dismay about it, whether that's writing to your local MPs, whether that's signing petitions, whether that's doing a social media blog, sharing a post about it, by getting the information out there and breaking down those barriers, that's how we can make change. And I think Bristol this week, I saw they have erected a statue that is celebrating the Black Lives Movement, as from a protest. And I think that when they tore down the statue and to now have a new statue erected that is I guess celebrating a moment of change, it really does show you that protest and change can make a difference. And we just have to make sure that the people at the top are listening to us. And the only way that we can do that is to ensure that we have all of the voices we possibly can have behind us. And it isn't the few, it is the many fighting for the few.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's, we've just got to be prepared for it. We don't know what's going to come out, when it comes out, if it comes out. But we've just got to be prepared for it. We've got to be there to stand together and make sure that we are fighting the social injustice that is this delay to the reform. And the shocking rhetoric that we see online from individuals that we'll not mention.
Yes.
Let's not give them any airtime that they don't deserve. But yeah, it's we've got to be one voice, and we've got to speak together in unity with the injustices that we're seeing. And for me, we speak loud and proud together as one, and hopefully our friends in Europe will hear, our friends in America will hear, and have some form of comfort that we're trying our best to fight their fight for them, whilst we're over here in the UK.
Yeah, because we can only have equality when we have equality for everyone. And I think, as a cisgendered lesbian, I fit into the LGBT community. As someone of mixed race, I've been lucky to a point, but it is about breaking down those barriers and having the conversations and saying that this is okay. And I think, growing up, I'm definitely a little bit younger than you, but I know the shade. But I think, having not being able to look in the media and look at, I always use television as a kind of platform, because that is something that is quite easy to kind of gauge the level of acceptability. And I remember, well, not personally, you might remember, is the first gay kiss in EastEnders, and how everyone lost their minds about it because it was gay men kissing in EastEnders. It's before the watershed, and how could this allow this to happen? Yeah, it was. If anyone who hasn't seen it, it's a peck on the forehead. Literally, it was made something completely different. And now, being older and watching shows like, I think Pretty Little Liars for me is probably one of the moments where I kind of had a bit of a, oh, okay, where you've got a mixed race lesbian, and the fact that she's a lesbian has absolutely nothing to do with the story. It is just she is gay, and I think that is something that is kind of positive. And now we need to get that acceptance and visibility across all mediums for all individuals. Starting to see it slowly kind of creep in, but people's gender identity and their sexuality is a part of who they are. It's not what makes them who they are. And I think that's the whole reason why we're fighting for this, because we're fighting for the right for people to be who they are and not have to justify it.
I think you hit a really good point there in terms of TV representation. I watched a documentary at the weekend called Disclosure on Netflix. If anybody wants to
saw it. If you haven't watched it, I would definitely go and watch it. I think it was it was really positive. It was interesting, and there's a lot to take from it.
And the bit for me that program really highlighted was that when in the past, more so, when people from the LGBT plus community were featured in TV or film, it was generally because it was going to be a tragic end, or there was going to be some kind of horrific storyline that these individuals were going to go through. And I think what we've got to look at now is positive stories and stories of triumph that these individuals have. We've started to see it probably from the L or G part of the community, in the sense we've got Love Simon, that was a really good ending. But it's like we need to see more of that. We need to see more gender expression, more fluidity in terms of character development, and tell positive stories. That's what's going to help you.
And I think you've definitely. I think one of the things in the documentary as well that they kind of talked about as well is with trans individuals. They're primarily shown as sex workers. I think they showed clips from Sex and the City, and I remember kind of laughing at that when I watched it the first time round, because that was the idea at the time. Whereas now, you've got Laverne Cox's character. Yes, she's in prison in Orange Is the New Black, but it's telling a story. It's telling a story of someone that you're humanizing individuals and not kind of making them an other. And one of my favorite films, I hate romantic comedies, absolutely hate romantic comedies, cannot stand them. One of my favorite films about lesbians is Imagine Me and You. It is a very romantic comedy film, but it's the first film that I ever watched with a lesbian protagonist that had a happy ending. Sorry to spoil it for anyone, but it was the first one I'd ever seen where it actually had a reasonably happy ending, and everyone was kind of okay, and the world didn't end, and all of that. But yes, we've got a couple more minutes left, so we'll just do a little roundup, because we've spoken a lot about a lot of things. But Northern Pride this weekend. Head to Northern Pride's YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, and then you'll never miss anything that they do. You can also head to their Facebook, which is, if you just search Northern Pride, it will come up. And Yes. What time does it start? What time is it starting?
So we start at 11 a.m. There's an introduction from me at 11 o'clock, and that slowly follows by the first official play of our charity single and our charity music video. We've come together with iStage Group, and we've got members of the community and allies all together to perform an amazing track with a very, very important message. That kicks off the event. We've then got the virtual march from 12 noon, and then literally content from there onwards. And don't forget, we've got Gokwan. Gok was performing at our festival weekend, so he would have been performing on the main stage on Sunday, but because we can't have him in real life, we've got him virtually. But he will be joining us next year as well. So it's a bit of a taster of what to expect next year. And then, yeah, we've got the visual. The visual will be around about 8 p.m. So it'd be great for people to tune in to that. Make sure you've got your candles ready to light and have a pause for reflection. And then we've got an after party, which will see us into late evening, depending on how long he wants to continue playing on the decks.
Well, that's good. Well, a full day of content. So I know that I'll be tuning in. I hope that the guys from Portsmouth will give it a look and tune in, and hopefully we will see a lot more people from Pompey. Maybe we can rent a coach next time, and we'll all drive up together. Thank you so much for coming on and having this chat with me today, Steve. I look forward to seeing you in person, hopefully soon. And send my love to all of the team at Northern Pride, and I hope that you guys have a really brilliant virtual main day on Saturday. So yes, well, there's no Chantel, so we won't be doing a roundup. That was basically the roundup. And don't forget to tune in to us next Wednesday at 7, where we'll be speaking with the fabulous Josh. I will speak to Shan, and we'll make sure that we get links to Northern Pride's channels so you guys can watch it. But yeah, do head over to their YouTube, because I think it will be a really awesome event. Thanks for everyone who's watched today. And yes, if you have any topics or questions, then just drop us a message on Facebook or drop us an email, and we will look at what topics we can discuss in future. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.